You know, underneath all that charm, you're just one very sick man.
Go ahead. You've been training for this for 3 years. Do it. Get your revenge. Come on!
All right, welcome to Highlander Rewatched, the podcast where we talk about every single episode of Highlander the series in detail. I'm one of your hosts, Keith.
I'm Kyle.
Eamon.
All right, and to start off this episode, we have a little bit of reader mail. This is from Zach O. Regarding episode, what would that be, 5 or 6? Bad Day in Building A?
Yeah, something like that.
It's been a little bit. So, here are Zach O's thoughts. He says, I've been thinking about the morality behind Duncan's murder rampage in Bad Day. As you said, we haven't seen Duncan kill any mortals yet, so this didn't quite feel right. But now I'd say this is still in character, as this is the first time it's gotten to the point where innocent mortals are in imminent peril of death. He let Joan Jett go, but she wasn't hurting mortals that Duncan was aware of. Only the viewers were in on the baby drowning, that's for sure. And since Duncan showed up talking about cartographical facts instead of the threat to Tessa, he might not have known that scene happened. If he knew Tessa almost got killed, he might have felt differently about being merciful. He also let the rednecks go. I'm going to paraphrase some of this email, too. He let the rednecks go in Innocent Man because no mortals were kind of in danger at the time, and the cop was kind of in danger, but as a cop, he's there by choice. And then, his words, not mine, he says he let Asian Slayer go. Again, his words, not mine. And that's in Road Not Taken. But that was at the cost of their friendship. I guess immortals can burn the bridge for a freebie. Although I feel Asian Slayer, his words, not mine, deserve death more than any immortals so far. The whole planet-wide enslavement thing, yeesh. I just can't agree with Duncan here. So it seems when mortals are in danger, Duncan is okay with mercilessly stabbing people.
I don't know. Like, I feel like there's something just wrong about him. I mean, in a hostage situation with armed guards, maybe he had to do what he had to do. But killing mortals and letting immortals go just seems weird to me.
Yeah.
Especially at least 2 who really didn't deserve to be let go.
I agree.
I think he raises a good point about the actual threat to mortals in a given circumstance, but it's still kind of inconsistent, and I think the episodes we've seen since then still reveal a very merciful streak, because in the episode we just talked about, the Russian mobsters in Sea Witch, they're pointing a gun at a girl with a kid.
Right.
And Duncan doesn't take those guys out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, Duncan seems to be pretty merciful. So, this is going to be episode number 10. The title of this episode is Revenge is Sweet. It first aired December 12th, 1992. The director is Ray Austin. We know him, of course, from like the 50-plus episodes of Zorro he directed.
That's right.
And most recently, we talked about Deadly Medicine, which had some Zorro references in it.
He also directed an episode of Stilk Talking. I'm going to keep bringing that up.
And this was written by Lorraine Despres. This is her only Highlander credit. And this is also her last credit on IMDb. It's like she stopped working.
Did this episode kill her writing career?
Sadly, no. She actually writes novels for the most part now.
Oh,
She's
wow.
a published author, and she does teach screenwriting at UCLA.
Very good.
This episode has a couple guest stars. The big one is Vanity, and she plays Rebecca Lord. And that, I don't know, she is a big...
She was a musician.
She was a musician.
Singer.
She was kind of discovered by Prince, and like he essentially created a group for her called Vanity Six, in which she was the front woman of.
Okay.
And it was called, the Six was for their breasts. They had 6 breasts. Those are the breasts.
Yeah, and their songs are kind of raunchy.
Oh yeah, their songs that's like their shtick is like they're like super sexual women. The choreo, everything was like amped up sexually. And Prince even was like, he thought she was like his like female like doppelganger or something.
Oh, wow.
He was like quite smitten with her.
She was also on an episode of Silk Stockings.
She has done some like not too much acting, but she's done some TV. I remember seeing her not too long ago in, I'll say, another great bad movie. It's Never Too Young to Die, which stars John Stamos and Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons from Kiss. He is the transvestite villain in that. It's like, it's a weird mashup of like, it's kind of a James Bond ripoff, but it's also like part Rocky Horror. And also like part Mad Max too. It's a very weird movie. But I would definitely watch it. It's pretty good. Like John Stamos, his like James Bond character is like a gymnast, like in college. It's crazy.
Jim Kata.
Yeah. So anyway, Vanity's in this episode, and well, she's had an interesting path up till now.
Yeah, she's a born again. She's renounced Hollywood. Apparently, she had a drug problem. It sounds very sad.
Real bad.
But yeah, she found Jesus, and now I think she tours as a minister.
Yeah, she like
something
speaks
like
around
that.
the country, but also she has like renounced all her
Oh,
vanity
yeah.
stuff. Like
Yeah.
she has destroyed everything that's vanity. She no longer accepts royalties from anything that is vanity related. That's like that part of her life is over.
Yeah.
Pity.
So then the other guest in this show, Christopher Ort. He's Reinhardt, Walter Reinhardt. He's done a ton of stuff, but it's like
all in
German. Yeah.
The one I noticed is a show called Helicops, which sounds amazing. Like, are these like Transformer cops who like have helicopter parts? I don't know.
I assume they are cops who get from A to B in copters instead of cars, if I had to guess. But
Very good.
And then the third guest, he's got a small part, but this is the first time we see him in the show. It's Tim Reed. He's the new police sergeant.
Yeah.
In this like revolving door of like the police characters in this.
what happened to Starsh?
So first we had Pal,
Starsh.
then we had Starsh, then did we have anyone else after
Yeah,
Starsh?
we had someone in Deadly Medicine.
Oh yeah,
Carmelli or
Carmel,
Yeah.
And he didn't stick around long. And now we've got this guy who I already forget his name, but
Bennett. Sergeant Bennett, Tim Reed. He's got an impressive IMDb.
yeah, I know him from like the dad on Sister Sister.
Yeah.
That's like his big credit.
That's So Raven. He's also on Treme, the Wire follow-up.
So that's the cast of characters in this episode. So the IMDb episode description. While browsing Duncan's antique store, a mysterious woman named Rebecca Lord inquires about a sword that he once took from a rival immortal named Walter Reinhardt. Duncan agrees to let her test the sword, and he is shocked to find that she uses the same style as Reinhardt. Having never taken Reinhardt's head, Duncan fears that the two may be working together to defeat him.
That is a lengthy
It's
description.
a description.
Fairly accurate, though. I mean,
That does happen in the episode.
So we open. It's New Year. Happy New Year.
1989.
Yeah, so it's already a flashback, kind of.
Yeah, an easy flashback, but a flashback nonetheless.
Yeah. And Duncan is fencing with a gentleman on a roof.
And he's wearing like a masquerade mask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess the idea is that they're both at a party.
Right.
Like
Is
they're
it a
wearing tuxedo ties, and
costume party?
I guess
Why does he have a mask on?
Duncan doesn't have a mask.
Right.
Just this guy. And he actually removes it in the fight.
fight.
So it wasn't like they were trying to conceal him for later.
Yeah.
For some reason. It's a little unclear.
Maybe it's another Zara reference.
It could be. Yeah.
But in any case, this is actually kind of a cool fight scene
Yeah,
that
it's
they're
good.
having. It's Spark Central, but it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. So they're dueling. Duncan kind of looks like he's having a little bit of fun. So basically, Duncan gets stabbed and then chucks this guy off the roof.
But he gets stabbed in kind of a specific way that comes back later.
Yeah, there's a move that Reinhardt does.
where he like catches he like finds a way to like catch Duncan's sword arm so he can't swing, and then like stabs him. But Duncan kind of just pushes him over the edge and winds up with Reinhardt's sword.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
cool move, and it comes back as kind of like an iconic move throughout this episode. So it should be taken note of.
One thing I was wondering, so they're at this New Year's party. I guess we're supposed to assume they knew that this was going to happen because they both have their swords, and Duncan doesn't casually take a katana with him places.
I just got the
Yeah.
impression that they both happen to be at this party.
And both were armed?
I don't know. Although, I guess we'll get into this later because we find out, I guess, some details about how Reinhardt is going about the game.
That's a
So
good
maybe it isn't by chance.
That's a good question. Does Duncan carry his sword around like how Batman always has his Batman clothes on underneath, or Superman Batman clothes?
Batman has his Batman clothes underneath his Superman clothes.
Right. Yeah.
His Spider-Man clothes.
Yeah. That's right. No, but you know what I mean? Like, it's Duncan always have his sword with him?
I mean, the
You throw it in
implication
the
would
trunk?
be no, especially because at this point in the series, he doesn't have a scabbard. So
Right.
I can't imagine he's got it with him everywhere.
Yeah,
also,
I don't think he does either. Because also there aren't that many immortals at this point in the series. Like, it seems like coming across another immortal is like a rarer occurrence. So I feel
Right.
like it's like if he's going to the store, he's not like packing heat.
Yeah, when he goes to Cookie
Pack and
Town, he
steal.
doesn't have his sword with him.
Also, he's wearing a tuxedo for this party, and that couldn't conceal a katana.
Right. It's a good question.
He doesn't have like a trench coat.
No.
I don't think we're supposed to think about it. I
Yeah,
guess.
that's one of those things. It doesn't matter. They pull those swords out because it's time to get down to business.
That's right.
So this scene happens, and then we cut back to the present, and we see like this red Ferrari drive up to the antique shop, and this mysterious woman gets inside. Or first she assaults some like ruffians in the,
Well, like
the
this
alley.
rapey gang.
Yep,
is
raping
following
away.
her,
Yep.
And Vanity kind of puts them in her place by giving this guy like an epic ball tap, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, she
Just-
does like the Batman, like punch him in the face without looking backwards
Yeah.
thing. And then, gets him in the junk.
which in context was much deserved.
Oh,
but,
sure.
You know, it kind of sets up this character pretty immediately.
Yeah. So she's at the antique store to check out this spear. But then when she's there, she is like intrigued by a sword that Duncan has. And she's
Right.
like, "Oh, what's the deal with that?" She wants to like test it out
Right.
to see if it's like true. And he's like, "Well, I've authenticated the maker's mark and this and that, like it's real." And she's like, "Well, I got to try it to make sure." And she's like, "What's the price?" And it's like, "We'll discuss it later after
Right.
we fight with it." And Duncan
After
agrees.
I potentially ruin this.
Yeah, and
blade.
Duncan agrees. He's like, "Okay, yeah, let's talk about the price of this perhaps priceless artifact." After we just like smash it against other pieces of metal, like why would he agree to that?
Yeah, the whole thing is puzzling. She wants him to come to her home
Right.
with this priceless sword and use it. It's
Right.
Why
And Duncan,
would you do this?
also
Duncan?
as an immortal, is like, "Yeah, let's fight." Like no bells go off to like,
Right.
"Yeah, this doesn't. No, I'm not fucking doing this. Like, I don't need this shit in my life."
Yeah.
He's just like, "No, I'll do it." I guess he just thinks that like, well, she's immortal, not immortal. I'm great at swords, so
She also
I can take it.
She also casually just asked him, "Oh, do you fence?" Like, that's a thing that people do.
There's a lot of like,
well, at least this guy owns a bunch of swords.
That's true.
there's a lot of like strange like sexual energy between the two. Like,
Oh, yeah.
she seems to be hitting on him hard, like all the time. Like I don't know. There's a lot of like innuendo and
Yep.
like how well can you handle your like that sort of shit.
and Tess is none too happy about it.
No.
So they
she
agree,
isn't.
and then Tess, as soon as Vanity leaves, let's play this clip because it's amazing. Here we go. This is what Tess's response is.
Don't stand me up, Duncan McLeod. And don't forget the sword. Not humorous at all.
Don't forget the sword.
She's
Don't stand me up.
It's
she
insane.
sounds nothing like her. She just
Yeah.
sounds like she's got emphysema.
She's like a demon.
She's doing her Caleb Cole impression.
It's like The Exorcist.
Don't forget the sword.
So now we get into, I guess, the B plot of this episode, and they go in the back room, which I guess is Tessa's like dumb
Studio.
sculpture studio. and Richie, well, it opens with Richie pulling a nail out of his shoe, and he's like, "These damn nails!" And he's got a new job. That's what this whole scene is setting up.
Yeah, he's
And-
in a fancy suit.
Yep,
With the
it's like a
world's
shit
ugliest tie.
Yeah.
and he is going to be a car salesman, a used car salesman.
salesman.
And the music in this scene, it's like weird and like it's like this Baroque harpsichord music that's like tinkering around. And so Richie lays on like some thick sleaze, I think. Like he's like, "Oh, you don't understand. You think I'll be pawning lemons off on people?" Like he's like, "It's nothing but the best quality." It's like, okay, Richie.
The whole time, all I could think of was Curb Your Enthusiasm when Larry David thinks he can be a car salesman. Like, only with Richie Ryan.
Richie Ryan.
Should we play this clip for that weird thing that happens in the middle of it? Like, that's, I think, unintentional?
Yep.
Yeah, all right, let's play this clip, too.
We'll put this on Facebook.
Yeah, it's strange. So this is when Richie is introducing the idea of being a car salesman.
Used cars.
Used cars.
It's all commission. Everybody needs to drive. Basically, I could stand to make a fortune.
Richie, used cars.
Tess, I know what you're
Used
thinking.
cars.
That I'll be pawning lemons off on some poor jerk. That's not the kind of place. I am talking about strictly quality merchandise here. So, top of the line.
All right, so in the middle of this, like a piece of, like a wrench
Yeah.
falls off the table.
Richie just like stops dead and turns around and looks at Adrian Paul.
And then the scene moves on. It's what's happening.
Very funny.
I like to imagine they're like, yeah, you guys don't want to do that again? Are you sure? Are you sure? And some producer was just like, keep it rolling.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
It's just,
Richie used cars.
Can Tess just have that voice for the rest of
Yep.
the series?
So that's basically that scene. That's just to
Yeah.
set up that Richie has a new job.
This is a really weird subplot,
Oh,
by
it
the
is.
way. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I have a lot of notes on it kind of at the end of the episode, like what it does in this episode. So then we go to Duncan goes to meet Vanity at 4:00.
That's right.
And I noticed this house, I feel like, is being used again. And
Oh,
again.
it's used in like 8 episodes. Like, that we've
So I
seen.
think this is the same house that Duncan buys the Matsamune sword.
That's right.
Before, anyway, they must have had this kind of local. So he goes to meet Rebecca Lord. Also, I have a note, like, her name is insane. Like, it just sounds like a porn star name.
Yep.
It sounds like Tracy Lord, like who's a famous like 80s porn star. And then I even just Googled Rebecca Lord, and like that's also a porn star. So,
Very good. Maybe that porn star's a Highlander fan.
Hopefully.
and the outfit Vanity is wearing.
Oh,
is
this
like,
outfit.
Like this like 90s Pilates outfit, I guess. I don't know, but it's absurd and hilarious.
My note on her outfit is just hubba hubba. That's my scumbag moment for
Yeah.
the episode.
She's a very beautiful lady.
Yes.
And also, Duncan's wearing the puffy shirt again.
Yeah.
He's got it back.
Well, he's meeting a beautiful woman. He's got to wear his pirate shirt.
Yep.
So they spar a little bit, and
And they're
then we,
like flirting and everything.
yeah, it's very
too.
flirty.
Yeah.
It's like
Also, her haircut is like Elaine from early Seinfeld. She has that weird like wall of hair. Just an observation.
But she doesn't want to fence with actual fencing equipment and masks and things
no,
like
she
that.
wants to get into it.
And Duncan, again, no warning signs. It's just like,
Yeah,
sure.
she's like,
you're
no,
a pretty lady.
No condoms. That's basically what this is.
Oh,
I'm
God.
that
right.
sort of woman.
Oh, boy.
So she does she does a sword move that makes Duncan have a flashback in the middle of their
Yeah.
sword fight,
Yeah.
which doesn't make sense. But they go to England.
Yep.
We meet the Earl of Covington in a carriage.
As he's beset by like a highwayman.
Yeah.
Who subdues the driver and then
he shoots the driver like point blank, like in the chest, and he's still alive somehow. I mean, I guess it's muskets or whatever. I don't know.
old timey. He's just with like a flintlock pistol.
Yeah. So he gets everybody out of the carriage, and they both sense, oh, we're both immortal. So this is just a chance meeting.
Well, this was interesting because first off, we've often wondered about this immortal Spidey sense,
Right.
and how it triggers. He doesn't know that it's Duncan.
Right.
He thinks it's the Earl
Right.
of Covington.
I thought that was cool. Yeah.
So this does teach us something new about the way the Spidey sense works.
Right.
Like you just know someone's nearby, you can't pinpoint someone. But luckily for the Earl of
point.
Covington, Duncan's on hand to save him from
This-
being executed.
The Earl of Covington is the biggest wiener on the face of the planet. The Earl of Covington at your service. And he like is flinching while he's sword fighting Reinhardt. What a wiener.
yeah.
Yeah, so all of us here would handle a sword fight with a robber much better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So Duncan intervenes. Duncan's accent in this is pretty great too.
Yeah.
Like, he is like right out of like the pages of like Oliver Twist or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Like it's like a very old timey London accent.
Well, this is kind of crazy because he clearly is playing with his accent a lot. So when he makes his introduction,
Very good. I was going to say it if you didn't.
he like turns the Scottish shit on way up, like out of nowhere. He's just like, I'm Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod.
Yeah,
and then 2 seconds later, he's like, oh, I'll be there in a moment.
Yeah.
It's like, turns
We're
this
going to
shtick
get
on.
you to a physician.
Like, he just turns this shtick on, which makes me reevaluate every accent he's spoken with in the past. That like,
Oh,
it's like,
boy.
what's he sound like when he goes to an Olive Garden?
Mamma mia.
This is the first time him and Reinhardt kind of meet each other, but they don't fight because there's people around. He's like, this isn't like for
Not a spectator sport.
And that's kind of the scene. And it's like, okay, they've met. So we cut back to the present.
Vanity and Duncan then spar some more. Vanity's not too bad. I think she's better than Joan Jett.
Oh, yeah, by far.
Yeah.
So, okay, then we cut, and the McLeod crew, this is Duncan, Tess, and Richie, are carrying, like, the worst.
They're like metal donuts?
They're just a bunch of donuts.
Metal spray-painted donuts.
This is the first time we really get to see, like, Tessa's art, like, in the wild. Like, this is the worst.
She's won some kind of like sculpture contest, so she gets to make a monument or something.
A monument to awful art.
Yep.
to donuts.
But like, so the city is sponsoring this sculpture in like a public park. To install it, she just has
like they just
Richie and Duncan like lugging these heavy metal and like they have to install it themselves.
They just, like, bolt it down.
And like there's nobody else around, like no like city officials. Like wouldn't this be like a ribbon cutting ceremony or something?
And Richie makes some comment like they haven't bought art in years. It's like, yeah, the geniuses in the C. Coover like town hall meetings were like, yeah, none of this garbage. This is the worst art ever.
Well, you know, it's just some prop person. It's like, you got 15 minutes. Make me
some art.
Sculptures.
No, exactly. I can appreciate it for it in the context of like this is just weekly television. But oh god, it's awful to think about. This is art.
Right. But so Tess has reservations about Vanity, and kind of she and Duncan argue about this, where Tess just thinks Vanity or Rebecca Lord is kind of a femme fatale.
So back at the antique store, the rapey punk has been murdered.
Right.
Outside of the shop. So now he's just there dead.
Right.
And we get to meet Bennett again.
That's right. And so this guy's been stabbed by an expert. It's a clean cut. So Bennett is questioning McLeod, who is known to have swords and have an antique shop.
Which also, the cops on this show are having a contest to see who can look the most disheveled.
Oh, yeah.
Like, every cop they bring on is more disheveled looking than the last.
Well, this guy, he's dressed up in a detective costume. Like, he has a fedora, he's wearing a suit, he has a trench coat. He is a cartoon character.
At this point, too, it gave me pause. Like, Duncan clearly thinks something's up. And he thinks, like, either Reinhardt did this or probably Vanity stabbed this guy. He doesn't seem to like have too much concern for Tess's safety. Like all the time he's like, Tess, you gotta get out of town. You gotta like, I don't know. He doesn't see. It's like, oh, this is fine. Whatever.
Yeah,
you'll be fine, Tess.
It's weird. Also, when they find the body, Richie says somebody got iced and dropped here last night.
So after this murder, Duncan goes to pay Vanity a visit, and she's there like practicing on a dummy. Like she's doing like lunges to the heart. Which is coincidentally where this guy got stabbed. I have on my notes that there's some nip action here.
Definitely cutting glass the whole time, like for the entire shot.
Yeah,
she's really
they made
Turkey
sure to, like,
is done.
Showcase her. Turkey's done.
It's just.
So actually, I think Vanity's kind of a cool femme fatale in this episode.
Yeah.
Like, I think she does a good job. Like, she's threatening, she's sexy, she's
I think
dangerous.
she does a good Highlander villain performance. She's definitely better than Joan Jett.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like not even it's not even a conversation.
Even the physicality, like she's pretty good.
But that being said, one thing that was kind of funny about it is Duncan the entire time, even when he's there kind of accusing her, doesn't actually believe that she's responsible for killing this punk. He thinks it's Walter Reinhardt kind of back from wherever he's been out for revenge. And one thing I thought was kind of interesting is Tess pretty much calls him out for being kind of sexist about this whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Why can't it just be this mortal woman? Like,
she even makes a
Out for
comment.
blood.
She's like, "I know you love women, but like," and it's
Yeah.
like, what? Like, this thread has popped up before, like with that black book in. What episode was that? Where
Oh,
Tess
right.
goes off to her show in Paris, and he's like, I'm gonna pull out my black book, and she's like, you better not. Like, it's like they treat it so casually, and it's like, oh, Duncan's gonna cheat on Tess, and this is like it again, like, oh, Duncan, I know you love the ladies, but
Well, this is another example of Duncan's just right. He's just right. It turns out his hunch was right. Everybody else was wrong. And this constantly happens. It's kind of annoying.
yeah,
but the other thing that's weird is he has no reason to think necessarily that Walter is out to get him,
Right.
because she is out to get him. It's
Yeah.
not like she isn't involved. Like, she wants to kill him,
right.
as we find out soon after. It's not like she's not involved in this in any way, but he still sees through that to it being
like
this,
a deeper plot.
this immortal based on nothing.
Yeah.
Also, it should be mentioned. So Walter Reinhardt is reported dead.
Yeah, that's like
Also.
a public knowledge thing. Like Walter Reinhardt, I guess, is his like public name. And at some point, Tess gives some background on him. She looks him up, and I had to check like the subtitles on this because she's like, he was a Wall Street parrot. I'm like, a parrot? But her accent, it's a pirate, a Wall Street pirate.
So I thought this was kind of neat. It almost reminded me of Hook, where Robin Williams grows up to be basically like a corporate raider, and that's like the play on him being a pirate.
Right.
This seemed like something they kind of were trying to establish here. Like, he becomes this Wall Street raider.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Because he was like he was like a thief in the past, and like this is the 21st century.
Well, they even say
incarnation
that
of it.
like the SEC is looking into him, and he's in some shit.
Yeah, which is interesting because it seems like he uses his fight with Duncan as his excuse to blow town and, abandon his current persona. Mm-hmm. So, in part, seemingly because the SEC is after him.
Yeah, I was kind of curious about that. Like, that gets revealed later. Like, oh, when he fought Duncan and died, like, that was his excuse, and then all these lawsuits got dropped, and he could, like, escape with his fortune. Was that his plan, like, the whole time? Like, if he won that fight, what was his, like, was he just going to fake kill himself anyway, or...
Yeah, and the other thing, though, is, like, you don't really get to escape with your fortune. It's like if people have lawsuits against you for your money, they don't go away when you die.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, God, this guy who stole all our money is dead. We can't get the money back now. Like, his estate would be liable for whatever his crimes were. Like,
Yeah.
the SEC is still going to be coming after that pot of money. So it's really not a great plan, but,
Speaking of great plans, so the B plot is continuing forward, and so Richie's at the car dealership, and we get to see Angie again. So
Yeah,
Angie's
Angie's back.
Angie from The Road Not Taken, and he wants to sell her a car.
Yep.
And I guess he's kind of like upselling her, and he's trying to sell her this like BMW convertible.
Yeah.
And she's like, are these the original models? Yeah, like I guarantee everything's great. It's a $10,000 car. And so I looked up again the inflation rate. That would be a $17,000 used car today. And it's like Angie works in a homeless shelter that has too much bread and bologna. How is she affording this car? This is insane.
It's that big bread and bologna money.
She's got too much bread.
well, that's why they feed him bread and bologna. They skim off the top.
Yeah, there
So
you
she
go.
buys it, and
Yep.
that's just that scene. So this B plot is surging forward with all sorts of excitement and intrigue.
There's a scene before this I wanted to mention. Maybe we can put a clip of this on Facebook. Duncan's at his computer, and the way he's typing is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's really like intentional. It's like beep boop.
Yeah.
Boop.
he's what is it? Pecking?
Yeah, he's like pecking, and then he's getting like frustrated at the computer, like it's not doing what he
Yeah.
wants it to do.
He needs a software upgrade.
Yeah,
He does. I
Like,
love
bef-
software updates.
Before, it seems like he's the master of all things computers and can get infinite information from
Yeah.
them. And now he's like, beep, boop, beep, beep.
Which I think it would be funny, like if Duncan had issues with technology, being
Which-
an immortal.
Yeah, that makes
that's
sense.
kinda funny.
It's like the ultimate version of, like, your mom.
Yeah.
How does the Facebook work?
Omicron.
But the other great thing that happens in this scene, he's apparently given Richie a homework assignment to
Right.
go to your local library and figure out what happened to Reinhardt. And
Right.
he's the one who discovers that before he disappeared, like Reinhardt was engaged to some mystery woman,
Right?
And they've kind of figured out that this person was Vanity, was his fiance, and maybe that's why she is so keen to kill Duncan.
Right. So then at this point, Tess walks in, and she's still kind of, I guess, talking about her art and stuff. And I have this note. She says, I go back and forth between loving it and hating it, which is, I don't know. I'm not an artist, but like maybe a weird thing to say with something
I think so.
Like
Yeah.
that has been tons of money's been spent on. It's in a public park. It's like, really? You hate it? Like you just gave it to society as a whole?
Yep.
She's like, so I go back and forth between loving and hating it, but she's like, I think it's my best work. And I just have like, fuck you. It's your best work. Ugh. This is the worst. So then, coincidentally, they get a call from the head of the Bicentennial Committee. World building. Seacouver is 200 years old.
In 1992.
Yep, so 1792, Seacouver was founded. And they tell Duncan something bad has happened to the sculptures.
Which, where the fuck is Seacouver now? Right? Because I assumed it was on the West Coast the whole time.
It's on the West Coast.
All right, well, that's a pretty early founding.
I don't think so. San Francisco is founded in like the late 1800s.
Yeah, by like the Spaniards, and it was just like a monastery.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Just throwing out there.
It is early.
Yeah.
That is early.
I think it's okay.
So maybe this place is not on the West Coast, and or
I don't think so. I think it has to be on the West Coast. I don't know why it has to be.
I don't know why either, but that was just my assumption the whole time. But
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
food for thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I've never ever considered. Actually, everyone on Facebook, where do you think Seacouver is? Like, if you threw out all the knowledge that we have of like it's called Seacouver and it's like filmed in Vancouver, like if none of that existed, where would you place this city? Like, I guess you're right. Like, there are no other clues to where this is.
Yeah. And it's like they do talk about going to New York, and they don't say
They talk about it going there a lot. Like, it's like, oh, we'll go to New York. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and they don't say it in the way of like, so pack your bags and get an expensive plane ticket.
Yeah.
Right. Huh. That's a good point.
So they arrive at the park to check out the damage, and some like courageous citizen has done the world a favor and like fucking ruined this garbage that's in the park. Well, just like, there are children playing, and they have to look at this stuff.
But just by spray painting it.
Sorry.
Also, just by spray painting it. Also, it looks like spray painted plaster, so it can't be that hard to fix.
Well, they spray paint it, and it just is 3, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Un, deux, trois.
Right. A double un, deux, trois, which just means double 1, 2, 3. Mm-hmm. And Duncan says that like it's like a special. I don't know what that means. Is that a special thing?
I think it's a fencing maneuver.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
That's probably the move. I mean, if we have any sword experts
let us know.
online.
Because I was trying to figure out, like, why does he say it in French? What's the point?
I think that's the fencing move. Yeah.
All right, that's actually cool then, because I'm, like, dumb. Like, I don't understand what this is. So.
Well, they call the cops onto the scene, and Bennett is investigating this vandalism, but he's also a homicide detective.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, what is his job? Because
it's a slow down Seacouver.
Yeah. But he's investigating a murder. Shouldn't he be looking into that?
Yeah, it's like, well, I can put this murder on hold because someone spray painted a donut.
Yeah. Some ugly sculptures got spray painted. I'm on the call. So Bennett is basically grilling Tess about... Bennett thinks Tess is hiding something. And maybe that's his interest in this case, is he's like, they're involved in this murder thing,
I guess so.
And now they're involved in this.
They're involved in every plot, it
Yeah,
seems.
every crime in Seacouver, Duncan MacLeod is involved in somehow.
Junior crime fighter, Duncan MacLeod.
Tess is basically keeping quiet about all the Vanity stuff because she doesn't want to rat out Duncan.
Right. So then we cut over to now Vanity, and she's again training. And she's doing some kind of lunge exercise.
And she's wearing an amazing coat.
It looks like a carpet at Chuck E. Cheese.
Yep.
You're right. No, it's like at the roller rink. Like,
Yeah.
it's the carpet.
With it's just like neon squiggles on a purple border. It is like, for as sexy as they go out of their way to make her in every other shot she's in, this is like the frumpiest, goofiest thing I've ever seen.
And she's
Very
just
weird.
spinning in slow-mo and stabbing. And like that's the whole scene. Like nothing happens. So like there's this interrogation. Then they just cut to Vanity spinning around, and then they just cut back, and it's like, okay, that's the scene.
There you go.
We got it.
And then Duncan is now reflecting back for some reason on his relationship with Reinhardt. And this was like driving me nuts because this is like back to back. Like once again, we have an immortal who Duncan apparently has had a rivalry through time with.
Right.
Just like Alexei in Sea Witch. But we don't ever actually get to see it. We just kind of hear Duncan talk about it.
Yeah.
In a really unsatisfying way.
And in the meantime, Vanity comes to the antique store and steals the sword.
Right.
Which is, I don't know why she didn't steal it early. Like, I don't know what her plan is. Like,
Well, she
as
said-
as will be revealed later, like there is some sort of like master plot with Reinhardt and stuff. But like, I'm not sure what her deal is. Like,
Right.
She at first, I was wondering, it's when she came to see that sword. Or see the spear at the beginning of the episode. Was she just like she seems to be like into weapons and into fencing? Was she just interested in the spear and saw the sword? Was like, oh wow, like this is all connected, and I didn't know about it.
I read it that she knew that sword was there and
She
was
does.
using the spear as a way to just get in.
I guess she could have also just inquired about the sword because she could just buy the sword. So like I don't know what her scheme is. Like why all this deception? Why just not come?
Well, she
if she wants to kill Duncan, like that seems to be her end game with all this. Like she never uncovers more of the plot. Like she never like corners Duncan and asks questions or talks to like threatens people in his family that are like, oh, what actually happened? Like, oh, you're right, it was Duncan. Like, I'm definitely going to kill him.
Well, I think she suspects Duncan before she arrives, and seeing the sword is like the big clue that she's correct. It is Duncan.
So why not kill him or try to kill him in that sparring match the first time? Like, it's just like everything is delayed in the episode. Like, it's just like, we need to make this last for 43 minutes. So,
right.
Like, I guess she won't kill him early.
Well, here's the other thing. So Rebecca Vanity tells Tess, I'm taking this sword and I'm going to kill Duncan with it. And Tess is like, no, you don't understand. If I could only just tell you. She's going to tell this stranger, like, Duncan's whole thing. Like, this is the second time she's going to, like,
That's a good point.
Uncover all his, like, secrets, which are pretty important to keep. Like, it's just weird.
Pretty important.
Yeah. Although I was also unclear if Vanity knows about immortals, because she makes a comment earlier when they spar the second time, or when she's stabbing like the dummy.
Right.
She's like, oh, well, we could fight right now. There's no witnesses. Like, that is your way, isn't it? And I was like, wait, like, she's aware of immortals?
See, I just interpreted that to mean that, like, I think more that she thinks he's involved in some weird fight club.
Oh, I don't know.
Right, because she finds that list.
Right.
Yeah, and he's the only one that's still alive on it. Then we also find out that, like, obviously Reinhardt was game for this because he was a master swordsman.
Right.
Not only that, like, he did actually fight him when there were no witnesses. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we necessarily... I raised an eyebrow at that too, but I don't see a reason to think that
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because it's like either she thinks he killed him because he's mortal and he got stabbed and is dead, or she knows about immortals and he beheaded him. Like, it's the same thing. But yeah, I think it just paints an odd picture. Like, I'm never sure if she knows about it, because Tess and Duncan have a whole conversation later, like, well, didn't she know? And he's like, no, I trusted you. Like, that's why I shared my immortality with you. And you get the impression, like, oh, Reinhardt didn't trust her and didn't share it. So, I don't know. These two things seem to be kind of at odds with each other. Like,
yeah, which was another one of those things that Duncan seemingly just knows.
Yeah.
Because, like, this is part of the whole weird exposition of Reinhardt that goes on throughout the entire thing, where Duncan just has to keep telling you what a bad guy he is. Even though, frankly, we never actually see him on camera doing anything bad. Like, later, things get attributed to him, but...
Yeah. Well, I mean...
I guess except for robbing that
the
carriage.
mugging, Or,
all right, so Kyle, you were bringing up this monologue Duncan has. Like, he's trying to put this together. Do you want to talk about this? And we can play the clip, I guess, as well.
Let's play the clip. This is baffling. It's like this weird noir moment with Duncan mumbling. He's got like a mouthful of marbles.
people what they are? Is evil the opposite of good? Or just good made evil by hate?
What is he
Reinhardt
saying?
was always a game where he tried to set the rules. Life to the victor and death to the loser. But what about Rebecca? Is she his ally or his pawn?
What the fuck is that?
So, I can read it. I wrote it down just so we can clarify. So he says, what makes people what they are? Is evil the opposite of good?
As soon as I like, as soon as the
real
shot,
like existential shit.
like as soon as the shot started, I was like, "What is this?" And when he said, "Is evil the opposite of good?" the first time I saw this, I laughed out loud. I was like, "What?"
Or just good made evil by hate. That's like Yoda stuff. That's like anger. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate.
And again, we've seen none of this evidenced in the episode.
So to Reinhardt, it was always a game where he tried to set the rules: life to the victor and death to the loser. But what about Rebecca? Is she his ally or his pawn? This is like all non sequitur. Like this is nuts. But no, they introduce this like noir element, and they introduce like insane character development for Reinhardt. Reinhardt is always playing games with people, and they bring that up later, and it's like, what are you talking about? Like, all we've ever seen him do is just be like a common thief, basically, and just do a whole lot.
And get thrown off a roof.
And it's like, all of a sudden, like, he's manipulating players. It's like, none of this shit is set up. Why do we think this at all? It's nuts.
Yeah. Which, though, this sequence made me think, like, man, it'd be really fun to do, like, one-off noir episodes of Highlander.
Well,
where all this shit happens.
That's where they fucking should have done it. And then, well, we're going to get to the next episode, See No Evil, and that's where this thing should be. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later. But yeah, a one-off noir episode, like a detective thing, would be really cool.
It would be.
But yeah, this is just thrown in there, and stylistically too. Like, we've never had a voiceover before. Like, this is just a whole new world.
Yeah, I really think like this episode really needed more flashbacks. Like, they needed to set up more encounters between Duncan and Reinhardt, and specifically, they needed to establish how Reinhardt plays the game and what it is that, like, how he would try to get at Duncan and, like, set up this manipulation.
But we're seeing that in the past couple episodes. It's like the last episode, the Sea Witch, we're like, hey, more flashback. Like, I don't think they've really gotten the hang of, like, bridging these two time periods and, like, having
the budget.
Or the budget. Yeah, maybe that's a big part of it. Like, the development of, like, character development happening from the flashback bridge through to present day is, like, not there. It's just like, these are two separate things. Honestly, you could cut the flashbacks in, like, half of these episodes. You wouldn't even notice. It wouldn't matter.
You can cut Reinhardt out of this episode. Like, that's a perfectly compelling plot that a mortal wants revenge on an immortal for taking, your
right, because she doesn't
away.
understand. If she doesn't know what the deal was,
right.
This is foreign to her, and it doesn't make sense. And she's trying to make sense of it, and she's got to take revenge, I guess. But that's maybe not. That's not the right response, or maybe it is the right response, but she doesn't know all the pieces. So.
Right.
Honestly, I think the limited amount that they show us of Reinhardt would have worked if Reinhardt wasn't the ultimate villain. I think that would have been what makes this thing go. It would have been kind of nice if, like, Tess is actually right.
Right.
Duncan is just letting this kind of, like, his, like, the flip side of his chivalrous nature is, like, this kind of sexism where he underestimates her.
Right.
And the whole time he's trying to give her a pass because Reinhardt's out there. It's really Reinhardt. It's really Reinhardt. And, like, maybe and Duncan doesn't kill him. Like, he knows this guy's out there. But it isn't. It's just her trying to fuck with him, and he needs to figure out how to deal with that, dealing with this, like, immortal adversary and, like, trying to figure out whether or not to kill her. Mm-hmm. Also, it would have been a cool opportunity to maybe have Reinhardt actually come back in the future.
Yeah, that would be cool.
As a character, and now Duncan's, like, extra, like, this, now we've actually gotten to see, like, a concrete touchstone of, like, why Reinhardt is a bad guy and, like, how he is able to play people. Might have been interesting.
Yeah, might have been. Or could have been. So Tess gets a special delivery.
Yeah.
While this is all going on, she gets this, like, super sexy dress.
Yeah, it's like sequins on it.
It's a lot of sequins
with, like, fucking itching powder in it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's got some chemical on it that they say when it hit her body heat or something.
It had to heat up. Like, this random doctor who looks
by like a couple degrees.
What?
Yeah.
So Yeah, this dress burns her. Duncan pulls her into the shower and takes it off. And
It's a pretty violent scene. Like, she freaks
It's
out.
super violent.
They're
She
in the
does a
shower.
good job in this scene.
Yeah, and she's like losing it, and
Yeah.
like he's tearing her clothes off. It's a rough scene.
But why doesn't he take her to the hospital? He has
an on-call doctor.
An on-call doctor.
Who looks kind of like Starsh, and
Yeah.
somehow figures out what the deal was. Like, how did he determine there was a chemical in this that was released by body heat? Like, what test did he perform to do that?
None of this makes sense.
Doctor magic.
So
he looks it up on a computer. He had some software upgrades. He figured it out.
So then back to like the core of the story. Richie's at the car dealership.
Oh my god.
And Angie shows back up with the car she bought, and it's like a complete junker. It turns out that I guess like the dealer like turned back the odometer,
Right.
And so they have some deal. Like none of this shit matters. Like
Nope.
this is where I want to get all this shit. Like what the fuck? This plot. Why does it even exist? That nothing happens. So the conclusion of this like plot thread is that at the end of this like argument, Richie is going to make commission on this car that's what, like $40,000. It's like an extremely expensive car.
It's like a Mercedes.
And also,
Right.
I don't know why this used car dealership is dealing with it, but whatever.
Yeah.
And apparently Richie, like the cover is Richie helped this guy, so the guy only wants to deal with Richie.
Right.
So like Richie's boss is like, no, I'll give you like fucking anything. You just have to go get this car.
Yeah, so
Right.
he wants Richie to deliver this car to this guy. We later find out that it's Reinhardt, and
Right.
so Reinhardt takes Richie hostage. So at this point, it's like, wait, what is the whole point of this B plot? All it is to get Richie kidnapped by Reinhardt,
which
like,
he could have done.
He could have
in
done
any way.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like he could have just taken him off the street, like
Yep.
any sort of thing. But then there's just this whole plot of Richie being a car salesman that like adds, I think, nothing to his character really. Although I guess maybe you could say that it's like he's like trying to be a go-getter, but
It adds laughs.
this
Keith.
is awful.
It really
Laughs.
is played for laughs, like
Yeah.
pretty hard.
Why this plot is in there? They should have some other B plot.
It doesn't need a B
Honestly,
plot.
it's hard to even think of because it's like it could literally be anything.
Yeah.
Like anything.
Hey, do you have a thing that gets a guy in a place where he can encounter another guy? Done.
Yep.
What do you think Richie should have done in this episode?
Ooh, good question.
Right in.
Hold the audience.
He should have vandalized the sculpture.
It was me, Tess. Sorry. So Richie's kidnapped and is forced to call Duncan to come get him.
Like, he's got Richie, but he doesn't play him to his advantage in any way.
Right.
Like,
he just leaves him in the car.
Yeah, like, it's just to draw out Duncan to a fight, which Duncan would have accepted anyway. Like,
yeah.
Duncan wants to beat him.
Right.
Like, the whole kidnapping is just unnecessary.
And the goal is to get Duncan to Rebecca's house to fight, basically. And maybe he
Yeah.
wants them to take each other out. I don't know.
Yeah, I have this, like, what is Reinhardt's plan? So he wants Duncan to fight Vanity?
I think so.
But why? Does he want Vanity out of the picture?
I think that he thinks that Vanity can beat him. And if not,
So
then
he's just going to hang out and get the quickening?
maybe, or he's going to come in afterwards and finish the job because, it's played up that Vanity is quite good at sword
Right.
fighting.
Okay, here's my next question. I was going to get to this later. Well, we'll get to this. Fuck this episode. This is insane. So, again, like, I've been trying to piece together, like, what both their schemes are. So, Reinhardt's scheme, okay, let's say he does want Vanity to face off against McLeod. Where has Reinhardt been since 1989?
She's been training for 3 years.
Right, so she's only been training for 3 years for this. Like, so at what point did she start putting the pieces of the puzzle together? Like,
Well,
Right.
she's obviously been training before this, but right
Oh, I
because
guess maybe
she
with him. Yeah,
because
with
she
him.
knows Reinhardt's move.
Right.
so it's been 3 years. Like, where has he been? Is he just waiting for this to happen? Like, I hope she figures it out.
Yeah.
Because then I can get Duncan. Like,
Yeah.
I don't. That's nuts.
Well, so this was my assumption because because she wants to find the killer, right? So he arranges for her to find the list.
You think?
That is what I think.
What?
Right, because he vanishes purposefully. So I assume that he wanted her to find this list kind of in due time.
Because I guess he didn't think he could kill Duncan, even though he almost did.
Well, the whole
Yeah.
I think
He was there. He was going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is supposed to fit in with this notion we're supposed to have of Reinhardt, that he plays people and it's like this game within a game. And I think that's what this is supposed to be part of. That, like, because also he wants to, like, key Duncan up and, like, use whatever tools is at his advantage, regardless of whether or not he could win a straight-up fight, which, as you may have guessed, he cannot.
Yeah. Well, Duncan and Vanity kind of play Reinhardt also. They come up with their own plot where they're going to pretend to fight and Duncan's going to pretend to kill Vanity.
So how does he convince Vanity that
happens off screen, so we don't know, but it does.
Like, he certainly seems to, like, be like, okay, just get your revenge, let's do this. And she can't. She's not actually a bad person.
Right.
So that's kind of when it's clear that she's not behind any of this stuff. And then I guess off screen he convinces her, like, if I pretend to kill you, Reinhardt will show himself. And you'll be able to see for yourself that I'm telling the truth.
Like, they pretend to fight, and then Vanity goes into another room, and Duncan pretends to stab her, and she screams. But they would only have to do this if they knew Reinhardt was watching. They had no way.
Does
he?
How?
Yeah. Because, so Richie, in the phone call, keeps on saying, Mr. McLeod, Mr. McLeod.
Right.
And somehow that is a signal to Duncan that it's Reinhardt. Because as soon as he hangs up, I was a little curious about that innuendo too, but Duncan, as soon as he hangs up, is convinced immediately. He's like, even though Richie says Rebecca's got me, he's like, no, he was telling me that it's Reinhardt. I agree it's weird, but Duncan... I mean, I agree that, like, the messaging is strange, but it's when Duncan hangs up the phone, even though Richie says Rebecca has me, he's like, he's been kidnapped by Reinhardt.
Right.
So the plan was for him to go to Rebecca's house. So because he knows that Reinhardt's nearby with Richie, Reinhardt's got Richie, I think it's fair for him to say that Reinhardt's watching. It's probably not fair to him to know from Richie saying that Reinhardt's got him. But
well, that I can track. It's just literally like he doesn't know Reinhardt is watching them sword fight right then.
Right that second.
And, like, he's, like, leaning over Vanity's body. Like, is he just going to, like, watch over her body forever until Reinhardt shows up?
Yeah.
Like, and how does he know what window Reinhardt's going to look through? Like, Reinhardt just comes up and happens to look through the perfect window where he can see this thing play. I know it's a TV show, but like, that really bugs me.
We can sum up a lot of these discussions with, it's a TV show. Yeah. No, it's a lot of coincidences and conveniences, I guess.
So Reinhardt reveals himself after he thinks McLeod has killed Vanity, and he's like, how do you like that? And then Vanity leaps up and is like, you piece of shit.
Duncan and Reinhardt then get into it. Reinhardt's got this cool scarf. I thought it was cool. I don't know. He, like, takes it off. I was like, yeah, this guy's classy.
Yeah, he's a classy guy.
Classy. I mean, that's the way his character
classy Wall
seems
Street
very...
pirate.
Yeah, he's, like, very, like, well-to-do. So they get into it. I thought the fight choreography in this was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. Yeah,
I like that this fight also, just like in the Sea Witch, moved around a lot. Like, they start in this kind of, like, training room. They tumble out of the window.
They're in
roll
a garden.
Down the stairs. Then they go, the lawn, the garden. Like, it moves around a whole lot. But then Reinhardt does, like, his signature move.
The wrist grab. Or
and you think he's going to get him. But somehow, I guess Duncan, since he's seen this move before...
Yeah, he avoids it.
He avoids it and stabs him and takes his head.
I was just going to say the quickening for this is just a bunch of potted plants exploding.
It's great. It's just like, fuck the garden. Like, the whole garden blows up.
So I was kind of let down by that.
Yeah, this is the first... Bill Panzer, in an interview, talks about... This is the first time they've done a daytime quickening. And he's like, and the last. He's like, we didn't really know quite how to do it. And I don't think anybody was really happy with the results.
I mean, they can't blow up the house. Although they did a daytime quickening in Innocent Man.
Oh, that's kind of a daytime.
Yeah,
when the shack blows up.
Mountain Men's a little daytimey too. Yeah. This one definitely is a different sort of quickening with the plants.
I don't know about that. Poor flowers.
So after the quickening, Richie just like comes over and he's like, I escaped. So that was another thing that I thought was like, again, Duncan didn't need to save Richie. If Duncan had lost that fight, Richie would have escaped and been okay, presumably. Yeah. So that's like a little like kind of too bad that Duncan should have saved Richie.
Yeah.
And then Vanity talked about how she was like really like crushing on Mac.
Which was so silly. It's like you wanted to kill this guy up until a minute ago,
Well,
and he's been a dick to you.
Well, I guess all the like sexual tension and stuff, like maybe that wasn't like a joke. Like that was all like
she was into him,
legit.
but
and of course she would crush on him. I mean, it's like, how are you not going to guest star in the show and not be like, ooh.
ooh.
But one note I have here is this. I kind of actually like this plot a lot. If this was like the whole season, like if this was a continuing thread through the season, I think this could have been really strong. Like if we met Reinhardt, like if he's a character that appears like in the shadows, or we just still like throughout like 20 episodes, never know if he's really there or not. Vanity's always after him, appears every couple episodes. And then like also we're introduced to this other like love triangle thing, like because Duncan seems to kind of dig her a little bit too. Like, and it's like, oh, like maybe like there's all these kind of forces pulling at Duncan and like, I don't know, there's a lot of tension in this episode, and I think if they had opened it up a little bit more, this could have been a really like solid like season arc with Reinhardt being like the big villain at the end. That like shocker, he's there, and then I also got to explore like lots more flashbacks and seeing what he was really like.
Also, something that I thought would have been really satisfying on this is the first time I think we've seen a character with a signature move, so to speak. We see this move a couple times with this wrist grab, and maybe it's like all the kung fu movies and anime I've seen, but I thought it would have been really satisfying if the resolution of this story was that she teaches him this move and how to beat it.
Yeah.
Because we don't really get an explanation for how he gets out. Like, it seems like this guy has him over a barrel, and then we don't really... I don't understand how Duncan gets away with it. Like, or how he escapes the move when it seems like Reinhardt's already got him in it.
Yeah.
But that would have been something that would have been kind of satisfying that...
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Totally. You know, she teaches him how to escape.
And that's kind of the end of the episode. They play Who Wants to Live Forever at the end, which was, again, always glad when they bring in those musical elements. And that's it. And then the credits roll. Oh, and I have a note here, because we actually haven't talked about the credits at all.
Yeah.
Anybody have a clue what the credits are? Because it's just like what are we watching? Like the Stargate or
puddle?
something? It's just like vortex? A blue vortex thing. I don't know. It was as I was watching, I was like, I've never even considered what the fuck that is. Like, it's just spinning blueness, and
I think it's a puddle.
Maybe a puddle.
Well,
is
now
it the source?
Yeah, I'm saying now that we've introduced that was
in their head,
in the ether somewhere, maybe it was the source.
Maybe it's the source. I don't know. It's just like magic blue stuff. I don't know.
I never questioned it. I don't know.
Nor did I ever until this point watching it. I was just like, huh. Like, what is that? Like,
vaguely mystical water.
Yeah.
Toilet bowl.
I'm trying to think if I have anything else on this episode. Oh, I had kind of, as a side note, I was thinking about the cops' involvement in all of this, and kind of wondering what the writers' endgame for this was. Because we know they kind of, like, pussyfoot around this whole, like, do we want the cops to, like, really get involved? Like, they never really ask questions or anything. Like, so what was the, like, what tension is the cop element, like, adding to this show? If the cops do uncover this, like, what are the stakes then? Like, is the problem that the cops will reveal this secret? Will they help Duncan in the game? Like, I'm just kind of wondering, like, what could happen if the cops find out? And then I had this other theory. Also, since we're at the end of the episode, kind of a spoiler alert. So if you don't want to hear this, I'll repeat. Spoiler alert. I actually thought what a cool twist could have been for a cop character to, like, make it kind of count for something. Because, again, these cop characters it doesn't matter. Like, it's like a throwaway thing. But maybe the cops become what are the hunters later, which are the evil watchers. And they kind of almost have more motivation because, like, these cops don't necessarily know what's at stake, what the whole picture is. They just find out that, like, these guys are immortal, they're better than us, they're playing some game. So they have a misunderstanding, perhaps, about what's going on. And it's like, now that we know this, and we're cops, like, let's go get the immortals. I thought that would be been an interesting way to deal with this cop element, because I just kind of can't figure out, like, what was the plan? Like, was it ever going to do anything, or does it just sit? It just sits there as just like this element that does nothing.
Or even like maybe like the police or the FBI or something. They have like a specific task force that's just meant with dealing with immortal crime.
Yeah, like an X-Files-y sort of thing that like they really do investigate. But yeah, it just seems to not do anything, and I feel like that could have been a cool way to take it.
I think the best way forward for this probably would have been if you had a cop the entire time. It would have to be one person first off. Like, you need someone to at least be the face of, even if there are more people involved, like one person kind of needs to be the head of the whole thing. And I think Powell has been by far our best cop.
Oh,
but
Yeah.
you never forget your first. But in any case, what would have been interesting, because of course, what is the end game? Like, if this cop discovers it, what is he going to do? Go tell all of his friends, oh, by the way, there are magic immortals that are sword fighting each other? Like, no one's going to believe that. But like, that would have been a cool way to introduce the Watchers. That like maybe part of the way you become Watchers, which again, this is like a mild spoiler.
That's a great idea.
This is a mild spoiler, but there are mortals called Watchers who watch immortals and chronicle the game. That maybe it's when a mortal discovers immortals independently and on their own, that's like a criteria for
you get,
Watchers
like, reined in.
to bring you in. And then that character would have continued relevance in the future. It also might be fun if like the Watchers in some sense are involved in concealing the game, and they want people like law enforcement in their numbers as a way of preventing this from getting out in the open.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And of course, if you have a newly minted one, they might have a problem with that because they fundamentally want to solve murders and crimes and all these different things. There'll be lots of cool tensions to play with.
Yeah.
Nice stuff.
Sounds awesome.
Spitballing.
Good stuff.
That would be a good TV show.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sign us up.
Yeah. Get Bennett. What's the other thing? Like, Bennett, I'm guessing he just fizzles out. But in these few episodes he's in, like, McLeod is like, like a rock in his shoe or something. Like, he's, like, really suspicious of McLeod. And, I mean, that could have been something interesting to play up if he's not just going to get thrown out like all the other cops in, like, 2 episodes.
Right. So, thank you very much for watching, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. Make sure to review us on iTunes. We appreciate that very much. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Facebook. Contribute. There's a lot of people on there adding interesting things. Make sure to write us if you have any comments on these episodes. It's Highlander Rewatched @gmail.com. And then, of course, we're also on Twitter @The Rewatchers and on Instagram @Highlander Rewatched. All right. Awesome. Thanks again for listening, and join us next week when we discuss episode 11, See No Evil. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Everyone stop.
McLeod! Tess!
You're the talent for brutality.